Hello, I am Rex the Rebel. This is now the seventh fucking time trying to make this video. If it happens again, I'm just not going to upload. I swear to God. Swear to God. Alright, so today we're going to be talking about two things. One, we're going to be talking about Michael Bloomberg, the comments that resurfaced about what he said about stop and frisk. And we're also going to be talking about, first, airline passengers and reclining in their seats. Now, there was a controversy that occurred on Valentine's Day about a man and a woman on an airplane. It was Delta Airlines. And I thought it was about to happen again, I swear to God. The controversy was she reclined in his space while he was eating, and he was hitting the back of her seat to push her seat forward from reclining, to try to get her to move forward. Now, if you watch the video, it's very easy to find. It's very easily available to find on YouTube. I wish I could just upload it here, so for reference. I think she's at fault here. She was very inconsiderate. She was very rude. She seemed very smug and entitled the entire time. She laughed, and her whole thing was, "Oh my God, I'm the victim. Look at this guy hitting the back of my chair. He's hurting my neck." I don't care. You're going from Louisiana to North Carolina. That's a 2-3 hour flight. You don't need to recline back into your seat. And this guy was eating. And you had just all the time in the world. You didn't have all the time in the world. You had 2 or 3 hours. But you had 2 or 3 hours to yourself. And in those 2 or 3 hours, you decided, I'm going to recline into this man's space. He could not go backwards because his chair was the final row in the plane. But she made it seem like she was the victim of him hitting her chair. Now, he wasn't really hitting her chair. Not in the sense that, like, the way she makes it sound. There was a news anchor who had her on the show who asked her, how hard was he hitting your chair? She's like, hard! And I'm just like, news guy, you just played the clip. You cannot play the clip and then ask her how hard, and then she tell you very hard, when it was clear as day. My best friend's newborn hits harder than that. Okay, this guy wasn't hitting her chair. It wasn't anything like what she said it was. She was lying, and the video was right there. She's the one that recorded it. Even the airline stewardess seemed to agree with the guy and take his side, because she complained of the fact that the stewardess did that. Now, full disclosure, in reality, this issue is not about whose comfort should be dissed or rejected. This is all about the airlines being greedy and not making enough space for their passengers. And ultimately, that's what this comes down to. That's what this comes down to, is that we need to reinstate regulations and enforce airlines to have passengers' seats be spacious enough to where your comfort does not impose on another passenger's comfort. That's what all it comes down to. So ultimately, it's the airline's fault. But since we don't live in that beautiful world where we have spacious comfort on an airplane, she's at fault. She's a liar, and she shouldn't have reclined on a 2-3 hour flight from Louisiana to North Carolina and complain about him getting mad at her for being a bitch. Now let's move on to Kyle Kulinski's video, where I made a comment on his video about Michael Bloomberg and the comments that Michael Bloomberg made. So I made a comment on Kyle Kulinski's video about comments that Michael Bloomberg made a few years ago about stop and frisk. I don't support stop and frisk policies. I happen to not agree that police should be able to just go up to people and search and search you. I don't think that that's right. I think that that's pretty damn unconstitutional. But the problem with, by the way, if you don't know who Kyle Kulinski is, go look up Secular Talk, or just type in Kyle Kulinski on YouTube and watch him. He's a left-wing YouTuber. He's not woke, identitarian. He's good people. So check him out. Michael Bloomberg made comments about stop and frisk and why he supported it. And it was about how the racial makeup of people from stop and frisk were mostly minority communities, because that's where most of the crime was. And so they targeted crime-ridden areas, and crime-ridden areas happen to be areas of color. What we don't talk about is why those areas are crime-ridden. And I think that's what this all comes down to, is everyone says that what he said was racist, kind of like Pete Buttigieg, where, you know, the same kind of situation happened. Lots of people of color were arrested, and higher amounts were arrested when Pete Buttigieg and Mike Bloomberg were in Jesus Christ when they were mayors. The crime rates went up for them, and it's because there was higher police presence in those neighborhoods to get drugs out and everything. Now, black people and white people do drugs about the same amount. At least that's what statistics bear out. But the crime rate in black communities tends to be higher than in white communities, typically poor black communities. And that was the racist comment, was because he targeted low-income black communities with stop and frisk because of the fact that they were black. That's the racist comment he made. Now, that's not racist. It is not racist to say that communities of color are disproportionately filled with higher rates of crime. What is racist is to say is because they are black. We don't talk about why those communities are full of crime. And I think that is what people are missing through this whole argument. Because I've not really I've heard some people talk about it, like in the comments, in the YouTube comments, but not too many YouTubers themselves have been really addressing why these communities of color are facing higher crime rates. And I think a way to solve that is to invest in infrastructure in low-income communities, regardless of color. But with those communities of color especially, you need to have public infrastructure. There needs to be public centers for youth to go to play, you know, and have something to do after school. You need to invest in the schools there themselves, so it's higher quality education. You need to bring back recess. There's a lot of schools. My high school, they took away the courtyard. We didn't have recess. We had lunch. So, you know, if they're doing it to my school, they're probably doing it to schools all across the country. That needs to stop. Bring back courtyards. Bring back a place for kids to do things at lunchtime. Go out into the courtyard. Do something. Go outside. That needs to happen more in schools. But also, we need to stop putting big corporations in these low-income neighborhoods and expecting that to solve the issue. Having big corporations hire a bunch of people for modicum wages is not the answer. If you want these communities to get better, to build themselves up, you need to incentivize worker cooperatives, really. I mean, you need to have locally owned businesses down there in these communities. Down there, I don't know where these communities are. They're all over the place. But these communities need locally owned stores, right? They need microeconomic pressures that the government needs to put on to make them better. You know, these people can't get out of it themselves. They need a helping hand, and no one should shame anyone for needing a helping hand. But those are some big ways that we can try to change the culture in those communities, the crimes. Make sure that people have more money. Universal basic income would help that a lot down there. Making sure that a lot of these people aren't getting arrested for nonviolent offenses is another thing. But there is a lot of violent crime that happens in these communities, and we don't ever talk about why. And the times that we do, we just blame white people and say that it's the patriarchy or whatever. I don't think that's constructive. But ultimately, Michael Bloomberg's comments were not inherently racist, simply because he said that they targeted crime-ridden communities, and that those communities happen to be largely communities of color. He did say that they were over policing white people because they didn't commit crimes as high. That's a sketchy comment. That's a sketchy comment. But just saying that black communities have higher crime rates than white communities, just saying that is not racist. And I'm tired of hearing that because you're trying to conflate causation with correlation. But that's pretty much all I wanted to say. I don't want to get too dragged into this because a lot of people are going to say I'm racist. I am not racist. I don't like Michael Bloomberg. I hate Michael Bloomberg. He's a billionaire who shouldn't even be in the political process because he's completely rigging it, and he has not gone to any of the debates. He has not even campaigned in many of these states, and he's waiting for Super Tuesday to be able to get all of his campaigning out. He didn't attend any of the debates at all. He didn't go on stage. He hasn't really had any of. He just pushed past all these other people. Whether I like these other candidates or not doesn't matter. He just pushed all right past them because of the amount of money that he has, and it's ridiculous, and I don't like him. But to say that he's racist because he made the comment that in low-income communities of color that they have higher crime rates, that's not racist. That's just a fact. But we need to know why, and then we need to address that and actually do something about it. So invest in public infrastructure, invest in education, make sure that there's universal basic income that goes towards all people in this country who are citizens. Boom. Solved. Local investment in infrastructure, UBI, investment in education, and worker co-ops. That would be best. That's how we help those communities. That's how we help almost everybody, but those communities in particular. So anyway, if you have anything else that you would like to add, because I probably forgot something, I'm telling you guys, this is like the 8th time me trying to upload this video. So there's probably things that I said in the other ones that I just forgot because I'm so frustrated and flustered. Anyway, please like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you in the next video. Love you guys. Peace out.